And welcome to the Alex Urbina radio show. Today we are live in the KHTS studio in downtown Newhall, California, hanging out with my lovely co-host, Ellen Tunick. Today's show is about life coaching and how to create maximum value for yourself from a life coach or from the simple willingness to be open to all possibilities, ultimately helping you reach your full potential. And today we're going to talk about mastering disappointment in your life. Now, this is one of the most common topics that most people struggle with when it comes to attempting to create more peace in their life. And, being disappointed is somewhat of a bummer, isn't it?
Yeah, always.
Like it really
I've never really enjoyed it, no.
No, it's an experience, I think, that it leaves you kind of disheartened and you're just sitting there just moping around.
Confused. I think disappointment is confusing.
Yeah. So let's jump into it. I know people struggle with being disappointed, whether it's with their spouses or their kids or their friends, or, when you rely on people, it's very easy to be disappointed in and not having people come through with what they promise and all that kind of stuff.
Well, for me, one of my first questions is disappointment, is there an actual dictionary description, or is it a personal perception?
Well, first of all, everything is a personal perception. And that's part of the awareness and being conscious, is realizing that everything is the way that you see it.
Oh, even the words in a dictionary are a perception.
Everything is your own perception. It's your own reality. You're the meaning maker to everything. So if you're living in the assumption that certain things are just what they are because other people have said so, then you're going based on what their idea of something is. So disappointment, if you really give yourself permission to learn about it and decide what it means for you, as you go down that rabbit hole, you can easily decide to make your own choices about it.
Right.
Rather than just deciding that disappointment is just a thing and it happens and comes along in a certain way that somebody actually does it to you, rather than a disappointment is something that I perceive as being disappointed. And there's a certain way and a functionality that is unfolding from your set of eyes where you're seeing the scenario and being disappointed by it. And that's what I want to kind of get into today. So what question do you have to help us get down that road?
For me also, once again, there's two different phases of disappointment. One is disappointment in other people's decisions, choices, but there's also, and maybe we can split it to two halves, is personal self-disappointment. Those are kind of two different things.
Why do you see them as two different things?
Well, maybe they're not two different things, but I deal with my own disappointment of things that maybe I've chosen to do, things that I wanted to do and didn't complete them. It didn't happen for me. But disappointment in other people's choices, I can't help the choice they make, but I can help the choices that I make. So it just seems different to me.
Okay, so let's separate them right for now, and let's start with the obvious disappointment that other people bring upon you.
Okay.
And then we'll come back to you being disappointed in yourself.
Right.
So let's start with somebody has disappointed you. Give me a scenario that I can jump into.
Do we do adults or do we do kids?
Let's start with adults.
Oh, okay.
So it could be a friend, it could be a spouse, it could be
it goes from something very simple as far as, wow, that person did not connect with me on Christmas. How disappointing is that? I'm disappointed in that friend. They weren't thinking about me. And it can go all the way to...
Well, let's start with just that.
Okay.
And I love this. So the picture you just painted in those words that you put together to come up with the disappointment, right? And it sounded like, man, I'm so disappointed that Christina came by, didn't say hi to me. I saw her say hi to everyone else. And then, man, I'm disappointed because I thought we were friends.
Right.
Right? Just in that little paragraph is a picture that you painted. Yes or no?
Yes.
And you're painting that picture because that was your experience at the party. You observed that, you noticed that.
I felt that.
You felt it. But before you felt it, you witnessed something. You watched Christina walk in the room. You saw her make eye contact with other people. You saw a smile on her face that she was connecting with others. And then you realize or notice that she didn't make that same connection with you. So from all of that observation, your monkey mind made up a story.
Monkey mind.
Yeah, your monkey mind made up a story
that says she doesn't like me.
Exactly. And so because your mind can't just stop with Christina walked in, said hi to people, didn't say hi to me, end of story.
Oh no, we're going to go deep with that.
Yeah, your monkey mind has to come up with an ending. And so the ending that you've added to it 9 times out of 10 is negative, and it's about me and me not being good enough, and so it goes down this rabbit hole of stories that is going to be negative rather than positive, because you could have created a positive ending to that whole experience.
Okay, spin that one.
She probably didn't see me. When she came in, she probably had a lot on her mind. Maybe her dog ran away before. Maybe she was trying to find a way to get out of here quickly. I can come up with probably 10 or 15 different scenarios that has nothing to do with me or me being bad and wrong or me not being liked or her not liking me. But see, that's what monkey mind does. That's what ego does, is it has to complete the scenario.
The story.
Instead of, yeah, I saw Christina there. We just didn't connect for whatever reason. And then put it on the shelf. But what most of us do is we have to come up with some kind of a scenario to justify, man, what was wrong with Christina?
We have to have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yes, and you have to complete it.
Yes.
You have to walk out of there with something.
Or you're left open, and it's very unsettling.
That's right. Now, what would it look like if you started to train yourself to not let monkey mind run off with scenarios and complete these storylines that aren't true? Now, this is how common disappointment happens. Now you're disappointed because you thought she was really your friend, and so it validated or that you guys, maybe you weren't really friends, and it starts this whole tangent of stuff that's not necessarily real.
No, but you're making it real in your head. Was there something I said? Then you go to the last
That's
conversation
right.
that you had with that
right.
person.
Yeah.
Were they offended by something? And it spirals.
It's a snowball effect.
Yeah.
And then you don't realize how many hundreds and thousands of scenarios like that in your life and other scenarios with other people where you've made up things that might not necessarily be true or real. And they're getting in the way of how you see each other, now how you think about her. And lots of times they're misunderstandings. And when you give that person an opportunity to go, hey, I saw you last Friday at this party. You didn't say, oh my God, I know I couldn't, I got a phone call, blah, blah, blah. Things, it was a really bad scenario. I don't even remember the people I was shaking hands with. I was so not into it. And here you spent a whole week having misery and worry about, was she really a friend?
Horrible.
And going down this whole road that was a waste of time.
And it's okay when you see that person next time to bring it up.
Absolutely.
Because I think what a lot of people do, and I do it, is we experience it, we're disappointed, then we bury it.
Well, we make it true.
Right.
We believe it because we didn't give the person
an opportunity,
the honor to try to say, hey, that's not what happened at all.
At all. Yeah.
And you didn't even give yourself the honor of saying, hey, let me go and just ask her because Christina, I thought we were good friends. Let me just go flat out ask her. Now, what would it look like if you lived that courageous, where you just went up to Christina and go, Christina, I've been driving myself nuts, making up this crazy story that, you're angry or upset with me because you came in last Friday and you didn't say anything to me. Now, if she really is upset at you, there's an opening for her to go, yeah, I was kind of hurt that you didn't show up to my son's birthday party last week before that. Now it gives you an opportunity to clean it up.
What is her story now?
Yeah. And then you guys get to sit there and clean it up and hug it out and move on. And that's what relationships are built upon.
That's the true beginning, middle, and end.
Yeah, but a lot of us as human beings are cowards. we don't want to go up to somebody and go, hey, I noticed you just kind of brushed me off. Was I making that up, or was you? And,
why are we so fearful of that? Because we don't want to hear the answer? Or we think the answer is going to be hurtful?
Yeah, the pain.
Pain.
I had, if she, God forbid, she say, yeah, I'm really angry at you because
yeah, I'm really pissed.
Yeah, we're just, I think as human beings, our ego is afraid to being hurt, being rejected, having somebody be mad at us.
I think rejection.
Just the thought of, man, if she really is upset at me, I don't want to have to deal with that.
I don't want to really know.
Yeah, we don't want, a lot of us don't want confrontation. Instead of, no, she's a good friend of mine, I want to hash this out.
Right.
You have to decide, I just want to get to the bottom of things because I don't want to make up stories that aren't necessarily true. And then I'm wasting a bunch of time. My mind is sitting there trying to figure something out. When I could just
creating.
Right. When I could just text her after she left going, hey, I saw you a few minutes ago. You came and went. I hope you're okay.
Yeah.
Oh, my God. I didn't see you there. I have a lot on my plate right now. I'm going to call you tomorrow. I want to chat. Okay.
Okay,
I love
cool.
you. Yeah.
Yeah.
But instead, you can just make up these stories that aren't necessarily true. And then you're disappointed, right?
So disappointment also carries over to things that aren't directly related to you yourself, but things that you see in people that you love. Does that make sense? So I'll make a question out of that. So I experienced someone that was not really enjoying themselves during the holiday season. And when I see someone else not enjoying the holiday season, that's really disappointing for me. And I don't think I did anything about it. I watched it. I watched it happen over the course of a couple of days. But I didn't do anything.
Okay, so let's back up for a moment. You were noticing that somebody was having a certain experience
Yes.
at a party, and you decided that they weren't having a good time.
Here
Is
we
that
go
correct?
again.
Well,
Yes,
no.
You're right.
Did you? I'm just trying to find out.
That is correct.
Did you ask them if they were having a good time?
No.
No. You looked and noticed and observed somebody who didn't look like they were having a good time.
Right.
And then from that assumption, then you decided that they weren't having a good time. And then from deciding that they weren't having a good time, then you chose to be disappointed.
Yeah.
And all of that functionality was happening all within you.
Yes.
And you were making all of that up without confirming it.
But in my head, I believed I knew the truth.
I know. Of course you do. We all do. We all believe that what we're seeing is actually really happening.
Yeah.
And you convince yourself that, look, there's Timmy, walking around, hiding out in the corners, and he's not having a good time. Now, when did it become your responsibility to make sure that everybody has a good time in their life? Because I want to know how you got ordained this great, gift to make sure that everyone in the world has a great time.
It's not everybody in the world. It's
just the people you care about.
Correct.
And if they're not having a good time, you've decided that you're responsible for it, and so then you get disappointed.
I'm getting better. I'm getting better at not feeling 100% responsible for it. It's a different kind of disappointment. It's like I'm disappointed and saddened that this person is not experiencing happiness and joy.
Okay. Now, when you've noticed from your experience, which looks like or appears to you that they're not having a good time, and when in that moment, it sounds like you got tagged. It affected you in a certain way.
Yes.
And then it sounds like you sort of went into resistance to them not having a good time.
I don't really think I felt resistant. I felt sad for them.
Okay.
I had this compassion.
But the sadness, it sounds like it stunned you, like paralyzed you.
A little bit.
Because if the sadness wouldn't have paralyzed you, you could have been freed up to figure out, if I'm noticing he's sad, and that's my experience, that he appears to be sad, and you don't have the sting or the stun or the then it could free you up to go, well, let me see if I can go cause some joy over there. Let me see if I can go over there and spill a little bit of my love and my joy onto him, from overflowing out of my cup onto Tim, so that he could have a new beginning, so he can get off of whatever I think that he might be struggling with. Like it sounds like you didn't make a conscious attempt to go over there and cause anything to be different, if that was really what was happening with Tim.
Not to the I mean, it was so minimal. It was minimal.
What was minimal? Your interaction with him? Okay.
My attempt.
What did it sound like? Just out of curiosity.
It sounded stupid. Now that I replay it in my head.
Well, tell me what it sounded like.
What'd
you say?
I said, because I know that this person is not as comfortable with lots of people.
Right.
As I am. So I more or less tried to, walk in his shoes, and said, wow, there's a lot of people here, trying to open him up to saying, yeah, and then I could respond to that. But it fell flat. It just fell flat.
All right. I want to remind you that everyone's on their own journey.
Yes.
And so while he's on his own journey of figuring out how to master his own blockage and the things that he struggles with when it comes to being around people, right? Some of us get socially awkward. Some of us have some phobias being around a lot of people we don't know.
He just doesn't really care.
Okay, well,
and that's fine, and I totally accept that.
Okay, so then if you accept it, you got to accept that whatever his experience is his experience.
Yeah.
And stop deciding that it's a bad experience or that it's a negative experience.
Why is that so hard?
But some people that know that they're miserable, they know they choose misery, and they go to a party anyways with their misery. Some people are conscious that that's just what they're choosing.
Yeah.
And you're still choosing to feel bad for them that they're not having a good time.
I have a really hard time. I want everybody to be happy, loving, and joyful.
Yeah.
And I have to work really, really hard.
You should have been in one of the beauty pageants and said that, you wish for world peace.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to work really, really hard on separating my journey with somebody else's journey.
Yeah, exactly. So if you would have noticed from a neutral place that Tim
was not neutral.
That Tim doesn't appear to be having a good time. And so from that neutral observation, I'm freed up now to be able to go and maybe try to inspire something to be different. Go over there now, frees you up to go, hey, I heard blah, 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 and you just start a stimulating conversation, even if it's 10 minutes of getting his gears going. And he's like, now walls are starting to come down a little bit more, and he's starting to feel a little bit more invited and a little bit more accepted from the interaction with you. What if you were the one that decided to pop some training wheels on him, spin him around the room, and then take the wheels off so that there's some momentum going? And maybe he was sitting there waiting that somebody, hoping unconsciously that somebody would come, that'd be warm enough, inviting enough for him to go, all right,
okay, I can do this.
I feel accepted in this room because my friend Ellen came in and validated me and gave me a mirror to recognize that I do have a good conversation. I can articulate myself, and we had a couple chuckles. You didn't even create the platform for him to kind of just.
I'm disappointed in myself.
Well, oh, great. Now we went from being disappointed that he wasn't having a good time into being disappointed that you didn't have that awareness. You couldn't have had that awareness until we had this discussion.
Okay, but my brain goes to, but you should have.
No, you couldn't have.
Okay.
There's no should have. You couldn't have because you didn't have that awareness. See, this is where we got to stop beating ourselves up for, in hindsight, looking back and going, man, I should have done that.
Because it seems so clear.
But it's clear now after talking about it. But it's not clear in the moment because you didn't have that kind of awareness.
Yeah, okay.
It's a common thing that I have to deal with when I coach my clients. They start to beat themselves up, and I go, why are you beating yourself up? And they're like, well, I should have known that. And I said, there is no should have knowing it because you couldn't have known it.
Right.
until we had this discussion where we actually stop, look at it, examine it, and then have the awareness. Now see that as a gift, tuck it under your arm so that the next time you're in those situations, you remember to go and cause that kind of
And
new
create.
breakthrough create something new for somebody.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
But we're so used to beating ourselves up for not knowing something. You couldn't know it then.
Thinking that we should
You
could have.
You could not have.
Okay.
Otherwise, you would have.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Had you have known, or had you have had the
absolutely
awareness,
would have.
you would have jumped right into it, and it would have
Absolutely,
been just
'cause
like
I love this person in the moon and back.
exactly. But you didn't have that awareness until now, having the discussion. It's part of the learning process. It's like beating yourself up because you didn't know the answers to that test. Well, you didn't study enough for the test. But now, after the test, and you look at your D, let's go back and let's restudy that so that now I know where to course correct it.
Right.
Now, if you gave me that test again, I'm going to ace it. So the next test you give me, I'm going to ace it because I went back, looked at the adjustments I need to make, learned them, and now I'm bringing all of that new awareness into my next test.
Okay.
But what a lot of us do is we just beat ourselves up because we didn't know it, which you couldn't have, and then we carry the sadness and the being disappointed into moving on to what's
then we
next.
give up.
That's right. That's right. All right, stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina radio show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
The best live theater can be found right here in the Santa Clarita Valley. The Canyon Theater Guild has been entertaining audiences for decades with top quality musicals and plays. Located on Main Street in Old Town Newhall, CTG also offers workshops for the young actor in your family. For more information, call the box office at 799-2702 or go online to canyontheater.org. Marston's Restaurant has been a Pasadena landmark, voted the best breakfast in California by the Food Network magazine. Discover Marston's Santa Clarita location, open for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Marston's also has a fantastic catering menu that adds a delicious twist to any event. And they cater picnic dinners for that memorable romantic date. Experience Marston's on Newhall Ranch Road and McBean, or log on to marstonsrestaurant.com.
Have you heard about Assistance League Retail Store? For a good time and a great deal and bargains that are an amazing steal, there are friendly volunteers ready to share a smile. So come on in and stay a while. We take donations on gently used goods, and proceeds from our sales stay in the neighborhood. So for a great buy and a special find, come visit our store anytime. Assistance League Resale Store located at 24369 Main Street in downtown Newhall.
Hometown station.
KHTS AM 1220 and the new 98.1 FM.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina radio show. I'm your host, Alex Urbina. I'm an advanced life coach specialist, hanging out with the beautiful Ellen Tunick in studio today in downtown Newhall, California. Today we're talking about disappointment. I wrote down a few bullet points about disappointment I wanted to share. And then after I share each one, I want you to tell me what you're hearing in that. So the first thing I wrote down was, I think that one of the reasons why we're being disappointed is that we think that other people are doing something to us, rather than it's a certain way that we're deciding to interpret an event or a certain scenario that has disappointed us. It's like people make an assumption that when you didn't keep your word, because you didn't keep your word, you disappointed me. Rather than the way that I see that you didn't keep your word, I'm choosing to be disappointed. So what are you hearing in that?
I'm hearing that we have the power, the personal power, to interpret any scenario the way we want to interpret it, see it, believe it. That we don't have to go outside and point a finger and say you're doing this, which is so much easier. We take responsibility for how we're going to interpret it.
Right. Now, let's take this into a real life scenario where both you and I are working on a project. We've agreed to embark on this project, and we invited somebody, a mutual friend, to partake or help or assist. That person gave their word to both of us that they were going to be somewhere. We showed up because it's our project. We made the commitment. We're all in. They're not necessarily all in. They're just doing it because they want to help. We're there at the event waiting, and they don't show up. I look at you and go, "Are you okay?" And you go, "No, I'm very disappointed." And then you look at me and you go, "Aren't you disappointed?" And I go, "No, I'm not." So that scenario that I just painted just opens up the possibility that that person being late or not being their word or not being on time or whatever, however you want to justify it, that has nothing to do with being disappointed, them not showing up or keeping their word. Because if it was, then you would be disappointed, I would be disappointed, and everyone else that knew that they were late and didn't keep their word would also be disappointed. But if you have one person that chooses not to be disappointed, doesn't mean that they're, based on what they did or chose, actually causes the disappointment. So then what causes disappointment? Is it their actions, or is it how we interpret it?
It's absolutely how we interpret. It's interesting because even though that scenario was a what-if scenario, when you explained it and, you know, you saw me saying, "Oh, I'm really disappointed," and when you said, and I said, "Well, aren't you disappointed?" and you said, "No, I'm not," I actually felt relief.
Why?
Because now I don't have to be disappointed either.
Yeah, because it opens up, well, then if you're not, then
That means I don't have to
then
be.
I don't
and
have
why
to be.
was I choosing to be disappointed?
Because you're not aware, you're not fully aware of the choices you're making. You're slowly starting to wake up and realize day by day
It's a process.
that your personal power comes in all of your choices.
Right.
But you don't realize how many unconsciously you make choices and don't realize you're not really choosing from a clean place.
Right.
You're just choosing out of automatic pilot.
Automatic pilot.
Because there's been, in your X amount of years on this planet,
Thank you.
you've been automatically being disappointed in things. So this scenario reminded you of the 10,000 times that someone has let you down. So it automatically causes the disappointment.
And being disappointed is a burden
Okay.
for me.
Okay,
It's kind of a burden. And so
Or not.
or not. Well, for me,
Currently it is.
currently it is, but when you don't have to be disappointed, when you can choose not to be disappointed, it's lifted.
All right. Now, what if you don't get disappointed in the first place and then the burden doesn't have to even show up?
Yeah.
Are you open to that?
100%.
All right. So then the question now is, how do I allow myself to live my life never being disappointed, never choosing to be disappointed in what other people do, don't do, and the things that are outside of my control? Because technically, the person that we invited to contribute, them not showing up, is 150% out of your control.
Absolutely.
You can't control that.
It's a real whatever.
Yeah. Now let's go to my second bullet point. So the second bullet point is, when it comes to disappointment, you got to be open to the possibility that we've created a certain expectation or several expectations that we're unaware of that creates the actual letdown. And now what's another word for letdown? Disappointment, right? So you got to be open to the possibility that you have certain expectations in every scenario. And when one of those expectations is not met, it opens up now the possibility of being let down, thus the disappointment feeling.
I work really hard on trying not to create expectations.
Yeah, it's gonna be the biggest challenge in your life.
Yeah.
It is just, we're hardwired to have expectations, and we've been doing it for so long. It's like breathing. It's like me telling you, practice not breathing.
Yeah.
And you're gonna go,
can't do
I
that.
won't be alive very long.
But
it's like the expectations are just so constant.
They're like
in
fluid. They're just
everything
running
we do,
through all the
everything we do.
time.
When you start to decide for yourself from a mindful place that I'm slowly starting to let go of the expectations that I put on anything,
anyone,
anything, anywhere, then I've opened myself up to possibly experiencing personal freedom. Here's an example. Have you ever created a party and invited people to attend a gathering or a celebration or a party that you decided to have? Yes or no?
Yes.
All right. Have you ever, based on the responses or the RSVPs or even that night of the celebration, the amount of people that show or the people you thought were going to show or that you expected to show didn't show, or have you ever been disappointed in those scenarios? Now, what if you decided that when you had this party, you were just going to say whoever is there is supposed to be there, and whoever doesn't is not supposed to be there. And then whoever does show up, I'm going to embrace each and every one of those people and just celebrate with them and surrender all the people that were invited and just didn't make it.
Yeah.
What would that look like if you actually said that and then lived by it and operated as that from that framework?
That's pure joy.
Yeah, that's pure freedom.
Freedom
you're
and joy.
You're freed up from any kind of disappointment, let down, sadness, taking anything personal, right?
Yes.
That's the number one aha moment I had in my early 20s. It actually was one of my birthdays. It was like a 23rd birthday, and I invited a bunch of friends, and we were going to it was one of the little dance clubs there in Burbank. And I remember maybe 4 of them showed up, 4 of my friends. And I just looked around and I just decided, you know what? Then these 4 friends,
my crew.
They're going to get, this is my posse, and they're going to get the best of me tonight. And and I had more fun, I think, with just those 4 or 5 people than I probably would have had if 30 or 40 people would have shown up.
Well, think of how it clogs your brain when you have to hold on to
That's
all
right.
of that.
But not only the clogging the brain, but how much energy does it take?
A lot. It takes a lot.
It's like an energy suck. It just sucks out everything that you have that could be great and golden, and it just takes away from you being freed up to. And I'm sure if you went to a party where someone invited you and you were excited to celebrate with them, what would it look like if they were like all moping around like, oh, Timmy didn't come, Tommy didn't show up.
I mean,
and
that
you're like,
just puts the big bummer on. I'm here.
But I'm here. What about me?
Yeah.
Yeah. What would that look like if you can just decide that you're not in control of anybody or anything or their choices? It frees you up to just be able to enjoy your experience and be what it and
100%.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but again, it's that mindfulness. It's like you know, for so many of us who have done it a certain way for so long, you have to really catch yourself. You have to be in the moment, mindful and present. Go, whoop, I see what's coming in.
And I think this is just one of the most challenging ones, is to really look at how many expectations I have with everybody. Now let's talk about the expectations you might have for your kids.
You know, I'm kind of past the expectation with my kids, but I am.
But a lot of parents are not
working on expectations with my grandchildren.
Okay, perfect scenario. So when
my kids are my kids,
but when it comes to
they're adults.
But when it comes to your grandkids, it's almost like you being a mom again.
Absolutely,
so
doing it one more time.
Yeah, exactly. So there's other parents out there that aren't grandparents that actually have their kids 15, 16 years old, 7, 8, or 9 years old. And they're frustrated, and they're often disappointed with their children. Why?
Yes.
Why?
Because they have an expectation and a belief of how, what, where, and when they should be doing things.
All right. So they live in a world of should and shouldn'ts.
Yes.
Right? My son.
And why not?
My son should be taking the trash out.
Right.
It's the least he can do.
Right.
Right.
Where's the appreciation?
Right. Now, am I disappointed because my son's not taking the trash out when I've asked him
over
1,000 times?
Over again?
And I'm operating from he should only need to hear it once. Now, here's the sock in the gut. Are you ready?
Yeah.
There's a reason why your son has not learned how the value of contributing in your home and sees the value of wanting to be that person and rising to that level of wanting to take the trash out, where therefore he does, and then you've taught him something. I think one of the biggest breakdowns for parents and the most challenging thing to look at is if your son or daughter is doing something or not doing something that disappoints you, that means that you haven't taught them. even though you said, but Alex, I've taught them a dozen times. Well, then,
Apparently not.
well, you're not effective, obviously, in teaching them that breakthrough that you want them to have when it comes to their chores. You haven't figured out how to reinvent yourself in such a way that when you teach them something, it actually lands, and the switch gets flipped, and they now start seeing the value of what you're teaching them, and then they start acting in such a way.
You have to create a scenario, I think, with kids where they feel a personal payoff. You know, where if they get paid personally by doing something.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about doing it for dad or because mom told me.
But that's
so.
the default. Remember earlier you said we have a default?
Yes.
That's the default, is that we were raised. See, and this is where we carry our unconscious parenting that we learned from our parents into today's world with today's kids, and we think that those tools are actually going to work.
And they do not.
Like the why, because I said so. You tell that to a millennial, they're going to laugh in your face. It just doesn't work. I don't care how hard.
I got news for you. I didn't even like it.
Exactly.
I mean, and I remembered I was saying when I become a parent, I'm never using that.
Yeah, yeah. But it's still wired in us to be the default, and it's the easy button, and it doesn't work. Now, the moment you decide, wow, these kids are in a world where they just need to be explained why, where, how, how, meaning how's this going to benefit me? And you have to sit down and you have to have deep conversations, you know, and you might have to be vulnerable. It might take for you to be vulnerable with your son, sit him on the couch and go, son, like I'm working a lot of hours. This is the one thing that I really need your help in. Mommy or daddy can't do everything. This is where we rely on you. This is where you can help contribute to the family. And if you take this chore on and you practice doing it and doing it consistently and doing it good, you're going to start developing certain interpersonal tools that companies are going to want to hire you. Other business people are going to want to start business ventures with you because you've learned those things that we're trying to teach you in the home. And if you spent a little bit more extra time explaining to your kids 3 or 4 different ways, you have a better possibility that they're going to flip that switch and go, Mom, I got it.
So what happens if you actually do that and you have those conversations and they still choose not to?
Yeah, you got to keep figuring out. Again, this is a process of you figuring out what it's going to take from them. It might even have you look and examine and go, all right, then maybe there's something that I'm doing that's getting in the way of them seeing the value of taking the trash out.
It's communication.
Let me think. Could I be paying a little bit more for them and giving them more than what they're earning? Maybe could it be my own enabling that's getting in the way? Because some parents don't realize that their enabling and their coddling actually gets in the way of kids even seeing value.
Stepping up and
why would a kid, when you're handing them everything, why would they see value in taking the trash out?
Right. There's no value there.
No, there's no value there.
Eventually that trash is going to be taken out and I'm not going to have to do it.
Exactly. That's the point I'm trying to make. So sometimes even as a parent, you could actually be in the way of your own son or daughter having the breakthrough or the aha or the awareness of going, wow.
Whoa.
So this is where some of the parenting, where you have to look at it, take responsibility, come back to little Johnny and go, you know what? The last kind of conversations we've had, I've been trying to get you to see the value of taking the trash out, and I just can't. And I don't know what's missing from me. Until last night, I had a thought. And I realized how much more I give to you that you don't give back to our family. And that you don't give back to our home, yet you're not contributing back here. And I think it's off balance. So shame on me. And so just so you know, I'm going to start making some adjustments to even it out. Well, what does that mean, Mom?
What does that look like?
Well, it probably means I'm not going to be driving you to X, Y, and Z. I'm probably not going to be paying for the Netflix subscription. All the extra, and here's the list actually that I've created last night in my own clarity. And now little Johnny goes, "Oh my God, wait! Can we talk about this? Oh, now you want to talk about this?
I need some bargaining chips.
Yeah, exactly. Well, let's talk about it then. Well, if you continue to pay for the Netflix, then maybe I'll
take the trash out every night. I promise.
The point I'm trying to make is that these kids are always going to challenge us to figure out how to reinvent our parenting. Parenting now is just a default to just, I'm just going to, as long as they got a hot meal, as long as I take them to school, I'm doing just the basics.
Kids being kids, I'm going to do the least amount possible.
Absolutely. Especially if you're giving them everything or close to everything.
Right.
Sometimes parents will live in the illusion like, Alex, I don't give them everything.
Yeah. Let's really take a look at this.
I look around, I go, really? That's not everything? You give them a lot. You give, I give my kids a lot. It's because we love them.
Right.
A long time ago, I decided as a parent earlier on, I never wanted to be an enabling parent because it was such a turnoff. And I saw from watching other families, including some of my own family, how enabling really takes away the drive and the hunger from the human being to want to go out and chase after their dreams, or it takes away the perseverance in a kid. It takes away the drive to get off the couch and go out there and hustle and knock on doors. It robs kids from that animal instinct to go out there and strike, to go out there and swing for the fence, to get out there and hustle so that they can win for themselves and their future families.
So they know what that looks like, what it feels like.
Absolutely. It's like taking a little baby cub from the wild and you bring it into your home and you feed it and you treat it, you love it like a dog, right? You give it all, and then when it gets too big for you to take care of, you can't feed it no more.
Yeah, you go, okay, go.
Yeah, when you drive it back to the wilderness and you throw it out there, that thing's not going to survive very long because you've robbed it from the animal instincts to go out and hunt and persevere and win and overcome and achieve. That's what we're doing to our kids, and unconsciously as parents, we don't realize it. We don't see it until when. Until they're 28 years old
and they're still living
and we
at home.
stop and we look and you go, wow, I've asked you to do X, Y, and Z. You're 28 years old and all you keep doing is playing video games all day long, all night long, and to boot, you're ordering pizza on my credit card.
Yeah.
And then you go, and then that's when you're now going, oh, let me call someone to help me figure out how to
and then
fix Johnny.
If you've been doing it for so long, I always feel enabling is more about the enabler. It's more about if you enable someone, it's something about you that needs to do that. Now, are you harming that person that gets enabled? Yes. But there's still something going on. You're responsible for the enabling, and you're getting a payoff for that.
Absolutely. And it's a whole nother show talking about enabling.
And we'll do that show.
But the expectation that I really want to highlight as a parent for your kids, I want you to really examine how many expectations you have for your kids, each one of them. And then when you have that expectation and they don't hit it, it causes the disappointment within you. And then for some of us, when we get disappointed, we don't get disappointed in a way that goes, wow, I'm so disappointed. I need to figure out how to teach him how to do that. It causes the disappointment in us where we become the victim. And then from victim mentality, we go into being angry, upset, and then we start to project that anger and that disappointment back onto our kids. And so now
we just shut down.
Yeah, and now it's just this vicious, unconscious dysfunction in our family that never gets to figure out how to course correct it in a powerful way.
100% correct.
So with that being said, we're going to take another quick break. Stay tuned for more of the Alex Urbina Radio Show right here in your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
La Esmeralda is home to truly authentic Mexican food. This family-owned restaurant prides itself on its fresh-to-order menu. Even the tortillas are made in-house. If you have a taste for sizzling fajitas, flautas, or menudo, you have to try La Esmeralda's Mexican and Seafood Restaurant. Dine in or order out for the most authentic Mexican food Santa Clarita has to offer. Their Taco Tuesdays, it'll turn you into a regular. La Esmeralda on Bouquet at Haskell.
KHTS.
Now FM, 98.1 FM and AM 1220, your hometown station.
And welcome back to the Alex Urbina Radio Show. I'm your host, Alex Urbina, hanging out with Ellen Tunick. Disappointment. Now that you know, you're aware of choosing to be disappointed, and it's based on some of the expectations you have, and it's tied into maybe some automatic pilot of thinking that other people, based on what they do or don't do, actually causes the disappointment. And now realizing that what they do or don't do has nothing to do with your own disappointment. That my own disappointment is a byproduct of my choosing to be disappointed based on what I expect from you. And when you don't meet those expectations, then I have chosen to be disappointed because I had that expectation in the first place. I think that was one of the biggest breakthroughs for me, is realizing that that's a function that I'm causing. And to really wrap my mind around that took a little while. But once I got it and started practicing it, I slowly started from event to event, scenario to scenario in my life, slowly started to realize that I'm not disappointed as much, to the point where now it takes a lot to disappoint.
I was going to say, do you still every once in a while get disappointed?
No, because I figure out how to work my way out of it
quickly.
However, the automatic is still
there.
Absolutely, I'm still a human being.
Okay.
And so there are things that I think as a person, there's certain things you want or you would like to look a certain way, right?
And it just doesn't happen.
And when it's starting to show that it's not going to look like that, or when the time's getting to the end and it doesn't, you have to learn how. And this is the practice that I've been working on, is learning how to co-create in the moment. So here's an example. We have an event coming up. Let's say it's a birthday party for your wife or your husband, your spouse, and you've invited people and you have this vision. Or here's a better one. Let's say it's your wedding day. And since you were kids, most of us have visualized our wedding day millions of times, right?
Right.
So when you start to some of us spend a year, 2 years creating how that one day is going to look. Now the error is thinking that
it's actually going to happen that way.
Look any way close to what you think it's going to look like. Once the day comes, you wake up in the morning and it's your wedding day, you have to do a process where you surrender any vision, all visions of how you thought it was going to look, what you would like for it to look, and just learn how to let it. You've done all that you could to muscle it in that direction and prepare it to go into that direction, but be prepared that anything can happen, right? Uncle Mike could come in and be upset and start drinking and fighting with Aunt Betsy, and my brother, the ring bearer lost the ring. I mean, expect all of it. So in the world of having no expectations, let's expect everything, every kooky, crazy, the rain, the tornado, earthquake,
all going to happen.
All of it's going to be part of my day, whatever unfolds, because I can't control anything outside of me.
I can show up.
Hopefully. Yeah, hopefully. Some people don't even show up to their own wedding. Yeah. But if I get myself there, once I'm there, it's like, now, from here, I'm just going to embrace everything as it unfolds.
Because it'll be my story.
That's right. And I get to create it in the moment. Now, the best thing that you can do is, as things unfold the way that you don't want it or didn't see it being, you get to look at it and go, okay, it's here now. How do I want to course correct it? So based on it being there, what do I want to do about it? So let's focus more on what I want to do about it and course correct it or spin it in a way that favors us. So when Uncle Jim starts to have a little bit too much, instead of being in resistance to going, oh my God, I can't believe you did this on my day, and being angry and disappointed at him, let's go, all right, let's circle up real quick. Jim's having a little too much. How can we manage this? And then your brother goes, I'll take him outside. I'll get him home.
Learn to facilitate.
Yes, be a facilitator in your life.
Yeah.
Don't be in reaction or in resistance to what shows up. Grab it, embrace it, dance with it, and decide what you want to do with it now. That's how you'll free yourself up to enjoy more of the moments as they unfold, instead of holding on to this vision of needing it to look a specific way. Because if that's how you're living your life, you're going to be disappointed to the day you die.
24/7.
Because life doesn't work like that. It doesn't make itself and mold itself around your vision of how you want it to look.
Yeah.
Especially your career. How many of us are on a career path of wanting our career to look a specific way? And what's funny is that the universe doesn't work on your
on my plan,
on your vision.
Yeah,
it works and unfolds the way it unfolds. Your job is to figure out, okay, this is what I got now. What do I want to do? How do I want to leverage it? Do I want to spin it to this way? Do I want to spin it that way? Do I want to flip it around? Or do I want to stop and start all over again? Some of us, we just start all over. But the point I want to make is that life is a process of creating. Not being in resistance or reacting to what pops in front of our face.
And that's, resistance and all of that, it's, for me, based out of fear. It's that that's based out of fear for me. So if I can learn how to facilitate instead of being fearful, then I can release all the tension.
And I want to tell you that you are already a facilitator. It's you believing that you can facilitate anything.
Yes.
And all things. And this is where I talk more about that. I wish that we could teach our kids, instead of cramming so much information into their head and making them smarter, I'd like to focus on helping build kids up into realizing their leadership abilities. Because if you have great leadership abilities and you learn how to navigate the world, you learn how to orchestrate certain scenarios in a way that you're fluid and that you can get down the field and score a touchdown. So when we talk about metaphors like in sports, it's like I might not have the best quarterback, might not have the D1, prospects with college, recruiters looking after them, but I got a bunch of scrappy kids that know how to make plays.
Know how to make things happen.
And they are playmakers, and I'm going to take those guys and turn them into champions, because I'll take playmakers instead of superstar studs any day.
Any day.
And that's what I'm trying to get to parents.
They're
is
soulful.
Let's start empowering our kids to remember that they, based on their choices and their mindset, can create. Teach them how to be creative. Teach them how to be artistic. Learning how to make lemonade out of lemons.
Not be afraid of failing.
Absolutely.
Kids are afraid to fail, which keeps them strapped in.
Absolutely. Thanks for hanging out with me.
Oh, absolutely.
I appreciate you all the time. We're here every Friday at noon. Please follow me on Facebook at Coach Alex Urbina, or on Instagram or YouTube. Thanks for joining us on the Alex Urbina Radio Show right here in your hometown station.
Happy New Year.
KHTS.